Hello, hi, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will learn how we can show the preview of a URL just like how we see in social media applications like WhatsApp, LinkedIn, etc. We are going to understand what are OG tags and how we can use the data inside the OG tags to show the preview. So let's first understand what are OG tags, and then we will create a Jetpack Compose application so that we can fetch the data inside those tags and create a preview. Let's get straight into it. So let's first understand what are open graph meta tags. So I have taken this blog post from ahrefs.com. I will provide the link for this in the description. And we can see here it says that open graph meta tags are snippets of code that control how URLs are displayed when shared on social media. So basically these are tags which has some data inside it, and using those data social media sites displays the preview of a particular URL. So it is part of the open graph protocol of Facebook, and it is used by social media sites like LinkedIn, Twitter, even WhatsApp uses this. And we can find these tags inside the head tag of a website. So it looks something like this. So these are the meta properties, and the property is called OG colon title. So anything which follows after OG colon, we try to extract that particular content. So for example, we want to fetch the data, we will look for OG colon title. If we want to fetch the description, we will look for OG colon description. And for the image, we will look for OG colon image. Generally, these three properties are used to display the preview. There can be other properties as well, but only these three properties are required to generally show a preview. And it looks something like this. You might have seen this in a lot of social media sites, where if you, as soon as you post a URL, it automatically fetches the data of that particular URL and shows up on the screen as a preview. And why this is important is, first of all, it is eye catching. It makes the website more attractive and more appealing, as well as it provides you a quick overview of what the website contains. Hope you got a gist of what OG tags are. Now we will go to the Android Studio and create a Jetpack Compose application, and we will try to fetch these tags and the data inside it so that we can use that data to show the preview of a particular URL. We will ask the user to input a website, and then upon clicking a button, we will show the preview of that particular URL. So let's get straight into it. And we are going to first of all add the required dependencies for our project. So we are going to require two dependencies. We are going to add Jsoup for HTML parsing, and we are going to add coil for displaying the image. So let's do that. So inside the toml file, we are going to first of all add the required versions for the coil and for the Jsoup, and then under the libraries, we are going to add the required libraries. So let me add it over here. Okay, now we are going to use these in the Gradle file. So let's go to the app Gradle, and let me first sync this. So once the syncing is done, we are going to add both the dependencies over here. So these are the dependencies, as I said, Jsoup and the coil. Let us sync it again. Now we also need to give the permission for the internet as well. So inside the manifest, we are going to add the permission. So we are going to add the internet permission over here, because since we want to fetch the URL and the website, so we require the internet for that. So finally, we are going to work on our project right now. So what we are going to do is, we are going to create a very simple application where we are going to input or take an input from the user for the URL, and upon clicking the button, we are going to display the preview of that particular URL. Okay, so for that we need to add a couple of things also, not just the UI aspect of it, but we need to add a data class for it. So let us do that first. So I'm not creating, or I'm not structuring the project right now. You can do it as per your need. I'm just trying to show you how we can do this. So let me just create simply a Kotlin class over here, which is going to be a data class. Let us call it as OG tag data, and it will have title, description, image, and URL. Okay, so after creating the data class, we will create a service class now, which will basically help us to fetch the HTML from the given URL and then pass that HTML to fetch the required OG tag content. Okay, so let us create the class. We'll call it as OG tag service, and inside this we will create a suspend method which we will call OG fetch OG tags, which takes the URL as a string and returns the OG tag data. Then we will write return with context dispatchers.io, and here we'll set document equals to jsoup.connect url.get, and then we will create another method called parse OG tags, where we will send the HTML from the document that we have received from the above line. Next, we will create a private method called parse OG tags, which takes the HTML as a string and returns the OG tag data. Here we will again get the document, so we will write jsoup parse HTML. Now this document will basically hold the parsed HTML. Okay, now what we will do is we will simply one by one fetch the content of the meta tags. Okay, so for example, we have the OG title meta tag, and the actual data of the title is inside the content property. Okay, so what we will do is we will first of all look for that particular OG tag, and then we will we will fetch the data inside the content for that particular meta tag. So we will write val title equals to document.select, and this is a CSS query. Okay, so as soon as we find this particular property inside the meta tag, we will get that meta tag, and we will look for the attribute which is content, and whatever is there inside the content will be placed inside the title variable. Okay, so what we are doing here is that inside the document we are doing a CSS query for the meta tag with the property of OG title, and we're looking for the first occurrence of it, and as soon as we find it, we will look for the attribute content, because the actual content of this OG title meta tag is inside the content attribute, and then we will save it inside this particular variable. Similarly, for description, we will write document dot select, and exactly the same line, just we are changing the property over here, because here we're looking for the meta tag with the property OG description, and for the image it is also going to be the same thing, just that we are going to look for the property OG image instead of description. Okay, also we require the URL, right? So for the preview we just need the title, description and image, but let's say what you want to do is you want to click the card and open up that URL, then you can also look for this. Okay, then you can also look for this URL and save it inside the OG tag data class. Okay, we are not going to use it anywhere, I'm just telling you how you can fetch the data. It is similar to how we have done earlier, so we are going to do the same thing. Okay, now we are going to return the OG tag data, and we are going to say title, and we are going to say title if empty null, and it is going to be the same thing for the others also. For description it would be description, and here it would be the question mark, and here it would be image, what we have named, let me check, we have named it as image URL. Okay, so we're going to say image URL, and here it would be URL, because the thing is there might be a case where none of these tags are there in the website. For example, there is not such a very good website, there is not a very good website, then there might be a case that they have not added the meta tag, so we need to consider that too. For now we are just adding it as null, but you can play around it, you can add whatever the data you want as a default value for those things. Okay, So what would happen now is that as soon as we call this method, we should get back the object of the OG tag data. Okay. So now let's create a view model so that we can call this service from it, and then we will use that view model in the UI layer and we will perform the action. So let us call this OG tag view model. Okay, and this would be a view model, and we will say private val OG tag data mutable state flow OG tag data. This would, the default value would be null, and then we will have val OG tag data which would be state flow of type OG tag nullable OG tag, which would be equal to OG tag data. And we will have a private value called OG tag service, and we will have a method called fetch OG tags, which will take the URL. Inside the view model scope, we will call OG tag service dot fetch OG tags URL, and we will update the value of the OG tag data over here. Now we will simply call this method in the UI layer and we will fetch the OG tags data. Okay. So let us first of all remove the default composables provided over here. So after removing the default composables, we will create a new composable for the previewing of the OG tag. So we'll call it as OG preview. Okay, and with this will take the OG tag data as well. Okay, let me move it to the separate lines, and then what we will do is we will first of all create the card, and inside the card we will add the respective content for the preview. So for the card, we are going to add these properties for the card: rounded corner shape, elevation of default elevation of 18 dp, and modifier as fill max width. Inside this, we are going to add a column with padding of 16 dp, and then what we will do is we will write OG tag data image URL let, and we'll just call it as image URL. And we will, what we will do is we will simply use the coil library here to display the image. Okay, so we will use image. Okay, and inside the image for the painter, we are going to call the remember async image painter. This is what we are getting from the coil library, and we are passing the image URL inside it. And for the modifier, we have made it as fill max width and clipped to the rounded corner shape of 12 dp. Okay, next we will add a spacer and a text. So let us add that. So after giving a space of 16 dp in height, we're going to add a text for the title. So if there is a title, we will show that. If there isn't, we will just say no title. Font size as 18 sp, font weight bold, color as black, text alignment center, and modifier as fill max width. Then the last thing that we want to add here is again a spacer and then a text for the description. Okay, so our card would look like an image at the top, then a title, and then the description. Same thing as the above. For the title, we are going to add one more text for description. Here we have just reduced the font size and we have not added the font weight over here. Okay, so once you have created this OG preview, we will create another composable for the actual screen. So let us create that. We will call it as main screen. Okay, and this will have, or this will take the view model. Let us use, the type would be OG tag view model, and it will take the let me remove this modifier for now. It will take the inner padding values. Okay, so inside the main screen, first of all, we are going to add a state to hold the user input URL. Okay, So let me add that. Then we are going to collect the data that we are fetching from the Jsoup. So for that, we are going to add this line. So we are going to call the view model. We are going to collect the data from the OG tag data inside the view model, which is this particular variable. Okay, and whatever the value is fetched or updated will be stored inside this particular variable. And the last thing we want to do is we want to create a basic UI for the main screen. So we're going to add a title of our app at the top, and then we will add the preview and the input field inside that, below that. Okay, so let us do that. So so the main UI layout will have first of all this column, okay, which is fill max size, padding, horizontal alignment, which is done to be centrally horizontal, and vertical arrangement to be center. Then for the title text, we are going to add the name of our app. You can add it anything you want. I'm just adding the name as OG tag preview fetcher. Okay, you can just simply say OG tag preview app. Okay, font size 24, font weight bold, color as color scheme primary, modifier padding bottom of 16 dp. You can do whatever you want for the UI part. It's just a basic UI that I'm creating. Next thing you want to do is to add the text field to take the input from the user. So for that, I'm adding an outline text field where the value is the URL input, which is basically this particular variable at the top. We're changing the value. The label is enter URL, shape is rounded shape, 88 dp. Modifier with fill max width, background as color white, and padding 8 dp as well, and single line true. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to add a spacer and a button. So what we want to do is we want to click the button after the user has entered the URL and fetch the preview. So we are going to do this. We are going to add a space between the text input field and then the button. So we have added the spacer for that. We have then added a button where once we click the button, we will call the fetch OG tags method, which is this. So what this will do is this will take the URL, this will call a service, this will pass the data, create the object of the OG tag data, then update the value for this variable, and as soon as this is updated, this also gets updated. And then what we are going to do is we are going to get the updated data over here, right? So that is what is the flow of the app. So we have added the call for the method inside this onClick. The shape is rounded, the color is container color primary, modifier fill max width, padding and height as 16 and 50 dp. So inside the button we will add a text, and we will call the text as, or enter the value for the text as fetch preview, font size as 16 sp, font weight as font weight medium, and color as color white. Okay. So after we have added the app name, the input field, the button, the next thing we want to add is the actual preview composable that we have created, right? So what we want to do here is that inside the column we will write OG tag data and let, and we will write OG preview, and we will pass the data. So what will happen here is that as soon as the user has entered the URL and hit the button, this fetch OG tags method will be called, which will internally call the service for fetching the data. And as soon as data is fetched, the value will be updated for this particular variable as well as this particular variable. And once that is done, this also gets updated, which means that now it has some value inside it, and therefore the OG preview composable should come up to the screen with the required data inside it. Okay, now let us check if everything works fine or not. I'm going to use an example of my YouTube video itself to verify if the data is correctly showing up in the preview or not. Okay, let us run the application and check. So this is how our app looks like. We have the app name, the input field, and the button. Okay, now let me open up the YouTube video that I want the URL of which to be used here. Okay, so I'm going to use the URL of this particular video. Now before doing that, let me show you how the meta tags are located inside the page. So if you open up the inspect element and you look for the OG title, search for the OG title in the inspect element, you will see there is this meta tag with the OG title which contains the content that is the title of the video. And if you look for description, you will see it's over here. And if you look for the image, it is over here. There are other OG tags also, like the site name, URL, all those things are also there. So similarly, you can fetch the other things as well. Okay, now let us simply copy this URL and open up the Android Studio and see if the same data reflects on our app or not. So inside the app, we will paste the URL. We click on fetch preview and you can see it shows up. So we can see there is some space that we can add over here. So we can simply say modifier and we will copy and paste it over here. Okay. You can, so the thing is the app is just for the learning purpose, so that you can understand how the tags work. So you can play with the UI, you can make it more beautiful if you want, you can add animations to it. So let us run it again and check if everything is correct or not. So again, I'm going to let me go. I'm going to basically copy and paste the same URL. So you can see it shows up on the screen. So the thumbnail is correct, the name is correct, the description is also correct. Okay. So that is pretty much it for this particular video. If you learn something new in this particular video, do like the video, and if you find this useful, please share the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you have anything you want to ask regarding the video, please write it in the comment section and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.